So joined this morning to shed some light on that by Mr. Samuel Lugbeha, who is the President, Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Listening to the debates on the floor of the Senate, well, even though one may wonder how they come to that conclusion where they say 60% of some of the materials are substandard, the agencies that are consistently, according to them, flouting this building regulations and perhaps regulations and stipulations without any sanctions whatsoever. This is concerning. I mean, I'm sure it does raise a lot of concern for structural engineers.
Certainly.
Have you tabled these kind of matters in your forum, and what kind of conclusions did you come to?
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come on air today. What you are experiencing generally in the built environment in terms of collapses presently are things which we have talked about well over 30 years ago. I'll just give you a little rundown on it. This institution, Nigerian Institute of Structural Engineers, has been in existence since 1968, and to date none of our members has been found wanting in terms of any form of collapse. So it's a very dangerous trend.
What do your members do? What role do they play in those buildings, for instance?
Beautiful. Let me just put it in plain language which the layman can understand. The architect, for instance, in fact, a building, an average building has a team that works on it. The architect conceives the building. The structural engineer gives the building the strength to stand its entire lifetime. So the building standing every day means that the structural engineer is continuously at work. Any day that building suffers any form of defect that makes it comes down, it means that structural engineering has failed.
It means if you're going to do any sort of structural modification, a structural engineer have to give a consent.
If you are going to build anything that a human being is going to be inside, a structural engineer must be there. From bungalow to any form of structure, even the simplest of all, which is a bungalow. We are here sitting comfortably because structural engineering has been done well.
But do your members participate that much, or do the public reach out to your members to participate in several buildings in this country?
That is one of the reasons why we are here today. I mentioned that for the past 30 years alone, at least which I'm aware of, we have tried to drum the signal of this danger to the ears of those who are supposed to know. We have written letters, which I have with me personally. I wrote some when I was secretary more than 15 years ago, which I personally wrote, warning of this impending danger.
To who? What did you write to?
We wrote to the appropriate authorities. We wrote some to S.O.N, which is the overall regulating body for engineering in Nigeria. I still have them. We wrote some to NSE, Nigerian Society of Engineers. We made verbal contacts because we are all professional colleagues. We made mention of these things. Say, look, if you are not a structural engineer, don't dabble into structural engineering. The message is very, very clear. Don't dabble in.
Maybe the message that was being passed across was, this is our turf. Don't infringe on it. Did they understand the importance?
Certainly.
Of leaving structural engineers to do the job that they needed to do, not just under the umbrella of engineering?
I say we have documents written. Maybe at a proper forum, if you invite us again, we'll bring them. I have files in my car. Several.
But what do you think S.O.N or the NSC could have done?
What they could have done is to send that warning signal to all those who are not qualified to do anything in structural engineering in Nigeria, not to do so. A policy, an enabling policy. And the way things are going now, thank God the Senate has come into it. It is within their reach to do that. In other countries, we tailored our institution after the Institute of Structural Engineers UK. Their practice in the UK is backed by an act of parliament. Here, what the Senate will just do is create an enabling law for the competent practice of structural engineering in Nigeria. Competent practice, that is the word.
Now, you say that you have looked at over the last how many years, 30 years, none of your members has been found wanting in any building.
Yes.
But, there have been also other, permutations as to what could have gone wrong or what could be going wrong in buildings.
Yes.
And people are saying that there are lots of substandard material being used in buildings, one of the reasons why they're collapsing.
Yes.
Have you found that to be true?
Certainly. You see, each time we talk about structural collapse, you see, there are a myriad of reasons. Poor material quality in the market, inclement weather conditions, extreme weather conditions, act of God, then, of course, the human factor. You see, if after over 30 years, we have not been able to remove substandard materials from the market, then there's an agency who is not working properly. You understand what I'm trying to say? And if materials are bad, I'm a trained structural engineer. If you give me your building to do for you, and I go to the market, and I find that this is the material that is there, materials come with different grades of strengths, especially reinforcement. I know what the strength of a particular reinforcement is.
But you can't see it with the bare eyes, can you?
From the training which I have, I'm able to know. But because the other man doesn't have that training, he cannot know.
Which agencies do you work with, apart from the engineering ones?
No, there are agencies, for instance, the Standards Organization.
Are you in constant communication with them?
I was in their office last week. We are having a cement conference which is coming up October 23rd. I had to go and see the DG myself. He's a keynote presenter.
Let me ask you this question, because since you said you are going to break it down for the layman to understand, let's just go on that level and see what exactly the role of a structural engineer is when a building is being put up. And you say in all of the collapsed buildings in the country, none of your members have had a hand in any of them.
Yes.
That's quite commendable. So does that mean we have a death in structural engineers in the country? We don't have so many structural engineers, or people don't patronize them? What's the role? You started by telling us about the concept of the building, which the architect brings out. And you said the structural engineer helps to give some kind of force, energy to that building standing for the lifetime that that building needs to be there. Tell us more on this issue of substandard materials, which we know that Standards Organization of Nigeria has been working on to the extent that they even go to some warehouses.
Certainly.
Have you tried in your organization to carry out your own investigation to see if there is any reason of this collapse being linked to non-structural engineers being used in some of them?
Certainly, yes. The right word is mediocrity creeping into the profession. And I use the word competent structural engineering practice. They are put at the antithetical ends of the bargain. On one hand, you have mediocrity. On the other hand, you have competent practice. And then, coming to the explanation I was trying to give you, when the architect designs a structure, the structural engineer does let me just put it in layman's language, the strengthening, provides the strength for that structure to manifest physically throughout its entire life. It involves analysis, it involves design. Your design has a design philosophy, and then you have a concept which you are going to follow. And then you come out with drawings which are now used for the creation of that structure on site.
After the architect has done
yes,
this.
That drawing has specifications. For instance, what you have here now is we call this a slab, because you have some structures above it. It's a slab which you call decking normally. You understand me? The decking will have specifications. Say provide 150 mm thickness slab, and then 12 mm reinforcement, Y12 at 150, 12 mm reinforcement at 150 centers. You understand me? And then provide distribution bars, Y10 at 200 centers. These are specifications which have come out of the design, tailored to a particular need.
A particular need?
Yeah, the particular need.
The kind of structure.
Yes, for that particular kind of structure. Why in the first instance means high yield bar. And the most common grade which we used to work with in Nigeria, is 410 Newton per square millimeters. Twisted rod, you will see ribs on it. You understand? If you are a mediocre, to the mediocre, it is twisted rod. Every twisted rod is a what? High strength bar. So if he goes to buy, he wouldn't know that there are some mild steel rods which are of a lesser strength that have ribs. He buys them and uses. So if a structure has been designed for 410 newtons per square mm, even from the layman's point of view, and then you are using a material of 250 newtons per square mm on it, you can see the disparity in strength already. Then you now come to the use of the structure itself. If you tell me that you are going to build a residential building, I will use a loading of 1.5 Newton per square mm because it's going to carry just human beings. But if after designing for you, you decide to go and put a gym on it, you place your gym equipment on it, and every day you come and people come there to be using it for commercial gym activities.
So it defeats the purpose of the first structure in place. You have
automatically changed the loading pattern on that structure in terms of the design.
And these are things people take for granted.
Exactly, in the society.